Welcome to the Alpha Girl Confidence Podcast, where we are empowering youth female athletes to play and live confidently. My name is Shay Haddo, and each week I will bring you new episodes to teach you the strategies and tools that you need in order to live a confident, empowered life both on and off the playing field. Hey guys, what's up? And welcome back to episode 173. So today's episode is all about how to play with confidence after being injured. So I've been getting a lot of questions lately in my Facebook group and on Instagram with players that have been injured and they're having a hard time playing with confidence. And I totally get it. Right? Because when I was 12, I tore my ACL. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you've probably heard this story, but for anyone who hasn't, I want to share kind of my experience with it because it's going to help you with your experience. So when I was 12, I tore my ACL, like one of the worst injuries that you can possibly go through at such a young age. Before that, I was really fast. I was one of the top, I would say, two fastest players on the field, on the court. I was pretty aggressive. I was very confident, and I was just like a strong striker, right? Well, now after that, obviously I struggled a lot with confidence, with self-doubt, but I also lost all of my speed. I lost the thing that I was the best at, right? So I had to change the way I played. I had to change the way I thought because I was constantly worried about what if I get injured again? What if I blow out my knee again? What if I have to sit out for 9 months again? So I constantly, every single time I stepped on the field, was worried about being injured again. It would replay over in my head over and over and over again. And instead of being focused on the game, I was focused on my knee, focused on, is my knee going to hold up when I go into a tackle? Is my knee going to hold up if I sprint 100%? Is my knee going to hold up in doing cuts and turns and jumps? So it was always on my mind. And so I know how hard it is to play with confidence after you're injured, no matter the age. If you're 12 years old, if you're 25 years old, it's hard. Like, it's one of the hardest parts of being injured is the return to play phase, is learning how to kind of rewire how you play, rewire how you think. And so in this episode, we're going to be going into the 4 things that you can do to play with confidence after being injured. So let's get into first one. Okay. The first one is to trust your body, to trust your body's strength, right? I highly doubt that your doctor would let you go out and play again if you weren't ready, or your physical therapist or your parents or whatever it is, right? But that aside, right, you know in your heart and in your body if your body is ready. And so many times we are like questioning, is my knee ready? Just like I did, right? Is my shoulder able to handle a pitch? Like, is my body strong enough? Stop questioning your body. Your body is strong. You've gone through all the rehab. You've done all the things. It's time to start trusting your body. When you trust your body's going to just go out and do the work it needs to do. You don't have to think about it. You don't need to think about your own heartbeat. You don't need to think about, let's say you have a cut. You don't need to think about how do I heal this cut? No, it just does it. Our bodies are magnificent, powerful things. And so you have to trust that your body has done its job to heal itself. And there's nothing else you really need to do. Like, your body is going to do the work. So that's number 1, is just trusting your body, that it's strong, that it's healed, that it's done all of the things it needs to do to get you back to playing on the field. And that's not to say that like you don't have to do therapy and you don't have to do your exercises. Obviously you have to do that stuff, but your body is doing most of the work without you even thinking about it. Okay. So that's number 1. Number 2 is to stop hesitating and being passive. So I was the queen of hesitation, the queen of playing passive. I remember the car rides to the game. Every single time my dad was like, stop playing passive, play aggressive, play aggressive, play aggressive. But I was so scared that if I played aggressive, if I went into a tackle hard, that I was going to get injured again. Like, and anytime that I jumped or anytime I did a hard cut, like, I was always, concerned about being hurt. And so my way to combat that was to just play really passively, to not fully go into tackles, not box out in basketball, not run really hard, not sprint 100%, not to play really good defense, but it was more to just kind of float and be there. Right. But here's the thing with like being worried about things, right? The thing you're worried about is actually the thing you're aiming for. Being worried about getting injured, that's where your focus is going. And where your focus is going, that's probably going to be the thing that happens. So the more you worry about something, the more likely that thing is to happen. So obviously it's easy for me to say, hey, stop worrying about being injured. If I tell you to stop thinking about pizza, what are you going to do? You're going to think about pizza, right? So we're going to talk about these other things on like what to focus on instead, but just realize, right? This is a mindset shift and realizing the thing that you're so worried about, the more you worry about that thing, the more likely it is to happen. So instead of hesitating because you're worried about being injured, what if we just go play full out, right? And if we trust our bodies, then we can play full out without like hesitating and without questioning our body. We can just go play full out. I remember like the more passive I played, the more it was like my knee was like getting twisted up in a tackle or whatever. But if I was like playing aggressively and making my runs and getting into tackles, like my body felt so much stronger. So just realize that a lot of the time when you play more aggressively, your body is going to follow through. Your body is going to be there for you to like get into that tackle, box out, like get into that thing that you need to get into. So those two, trusting your body, stop being so passive, those two really, really work together because you have to trust your body. And when you do, then you can go out and you can play aggressively and not float around and be focused on what you don't want to happen. Because like I said, that thing will likely happen if you're worried about it. So that's number 2. Number 3 is to stop comparing yourself to other people. And I mean, specifically in the sense of injury. So a lot of time getting injured, the doctor says, oh, you should be ready in 9 months or 6 months or 3 months or whatever it is. And you see teammates or you see people on social media and they're back in 3 months, but why aren't you there? Right? Why aren't you quite ready yet? Like, what is it about you? Right? And so we tend to think that injuries are like this linear thing where it's like, I'm going to be on this timeline. And when the doctor says I'm ready, and I should be exactly at this point at this day. Injury doesn't work like that. So stop comparing yourself to what you should be and start just working on your own journey. Start focusing on your own journey, right? We are all on our own journey, especially as it relates to injury. Our bodies are all different. We all heal at different rates. So stop thinking that you should be somewhere where you're not. Stop thinking that you should be somewhere where you're not. You're not there for a reason. You're exactly where you need to be. If you're quote unquote behind in the injury process, that's exactly where you need to be. If you're ahead, that's exactly where you need to be. If the doctor said you're ready, but in your heart, you know there's something that just doesn't feel right, that's exactly where you need to be. So you have to realize that wherever you're at, like it's okay. Like don't be focusing on, oh, I should be here. Oh, my body should feel this way. I should be able to sprint. I should be able to, jump without pain. Like stop focusing on where you should be and start just focusing on your own journey and be grateful for where you are in your journey, because that's exactly where you need to be. All right. And number 4, this is a big one, is focus on your strengths. Focus on your strengths. So specifically, when we get injured, it's like everything is like, okay, I'm just going to focus on the weak spot. I got injured. My knee got injured. So I'm just going to focus on my knee, right? And you just focus on what's the weak part of my body. And when you focus on that, just like number 2, when you focus on that weak point is going to eventually probably not hold up very long because you're putting all of your focus and pressure on that weak point. So stop focusing on the quote unquote weak parts of your body and look at your body as a whole and look at how strong it is. Look at how strong it is. Even that thing that you think is weak is much stronger than you know. So focus on your strengths. Specifically, this is going to be in 2 parts. So number 1 is like focus on like your body in general, how strong it is, how much it's willing to endure. And don't just focus on like, oh, my shoulder, I have a bum shoulder. What about the rest of your body? Right? The rest of your body is strong, and that bum shoulder will become strong as well. Right? And then the second part of this last one is also like focusing on your strengths as a player, and you may have to change those strengths. So like I said, before I got injured, my biggest strength was without a doubt my speed. I had the nickname, we all had nicknames when I was 12, 13 years old on my team. I had the nickname of Shredder because I shredded defenses because I was so quick. I was like really technical and I could just shred through the defense. Okay. When I got injured and when I came back, I was literally the opposite of who I used to be on the field. I went from being the fastest to being top 2 slowest. So I lost nearly all of my speed. And with that, I totally had to change the way I played. So instead of relying on my speed, I had to rely on my smarts. Instead of relying on my speed, I had to rely on being at the right place at the right time, on cutting off the right angles. Instead of chasing someone down, I now had to just like kind of anticipate where they were going to be. So I totally had to change the way I played, and it had to like let go of the old part of me and like the old strengths and be like, that's not my strength anymore. And that's okay. But even though that's not my strength, like now I have these other new strengths. So when you get injured, you may have to adapt. You may really have to adapt your strengths as an athlete. And so it's really important that you don't tie up your identity in one part of yourself as an athlete, but you are able to kind of evolve and let go of the old and allow in the new when you're injured. Because just like me, you may totally have to change how you play. Or if you're lucky, you'll still have the same strengths, and that's easy. And you just continue to focus on those and you focus on the things you're really good at. But some of us have to start changing the way we play. We have to adopt these new strengths. So a very kind of tangible thing with this number 4 is to get out a piece of paper and like write down your strengths, whether it's like physically, I'm good at squatting, I'm good at push-ups, I'm good at, pull-ups, whatever. It could be like physically, like, where am I like strong? I'm good at sprints, I'm good at long distance, whatever it is. Where am I physically strong? But then also just your strengths as an athlete in general. So I went from being the fastest to being one of the smartest, and I was just really, really good in air. So luckily I didn't lose my jumping, or else I probably wouldn't have gotten recruited to play in college, to be honest. But I had to adapt how I played. I had to go from one strength, let go of that because that didn't serve me anymore, to then having a new strength. So realize that you may change as a player, and that's okay. Right? It's not something to be embarrassed about or something to be like, oh, I wish this wouldn't have happened. Because another thing we have to realize with injury is that you got injured for a reason. It may be hard to see that now, but you got injured for a reason. When I was 12 and I was going through rehab at 13 and 14 and all my other injuries, I hated it in the moment. It was horrible. It was hard. But now looking back, I'm so thankful that I went through those, because if I wouldn't have gone through those, number one, as an athlete, I wouldn't have, had to evolve like I did, but also like now I wouldn't be able to share my story. I wouldn't have those experiences to help you. So realize that when you're going through an injury, whether you just had it happen or whether you're just starting the return to play process, realize that injury happened for you. It didn't happen to you, but it happened for you. And you just have to figure out why. Why did this happen for me instead of to me? And when you can look at not just an injury, but any hard thing that happens in your life, when you can look at it as like a blessing, that's when everything starts to change for you. That's when you start to take control of your life instead of being a victim to your life. So when you get injured, don't be a victim. Go through these 4 things, which let's do a quick recap. Number 1 is trust your body. Trust the strength and the awesome magic of your body. 2 is to start playing more aggressively. Stop being passive. Stop hesitating. Number 3 is don't compare yourself to other people's journey. Like stay focused on your specific individualized journey. And number 4 is to focus on your strengths and adopt new strengths if you need to. If you have, things that are different about you, then adopt those new strengths. And then the bonus one is realize that every injury, every obstacle, every hardship that you have in your life, yes, it sucks, but realize that happens for a reason, and you just have to find out why that happens. You may not realize it for 20 years down the road, and that's okay. But realize that injury is just going to make you stronger. That injury is just going to make you not only a stronger athlete, but more specifically, just a stronger, more resilient person, right? The old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, whether you believe all of that or none of it or some of it, it's so true. It just builds resilience in you as an athlete and as a person. So be grateful for that injury. Be grateful that you're going through it, and be grateful that you're going to come out even stronger than ever before. So I hope this episode helped you. If it did, please share with a friend, leave us a review on iTunes, and I will catch you on next week's episode.